Mix and Match, very interesting documentary. Where did the original idea came from for this film?
Sure, I'll pass over to Athena.
I did a lot of nonprofit advocacy work trying to help patients. After my aunt had passed away from lymphoma, I met a mixed race patient locally in Los Angeles, and I wanted to bring more awareness to a topic that I feel like was not really known about. So the idea that there are less minorities and mixed race people on the national registry to kind of match with patients with diseases like leukemia, and I didn't know, race or ethnicity kind of played a role in matching, and that basically the whole registry is mostly white, and so there's a lack of representation. So I wanted to get that out there through the, focus of these personal stories from patients, and I pitched the idea via Facebook to a filmmaker that I was kind of familiar with his work in mixed identity and his prior work, and I guess 6 years later we're here.
That filmmaker was me.
Yeah, that was Chiba Stearns.
So, I make films that focus on the multiracial experience because I myself identify as being mixed Asian, so Japanese, English, Scottish, Russian, German. And I had sort of focused on my own identity in a lot of my work, and so when Athena approached me with the idea for this documentary, I had known a little bit about the topic, but I didn't realize the severity or the complications that exist because as we mix and blend, our genetics are getting more complex as well. And so when you're trying to match someone and find a genetic twin in the world, it's getting much harder to find your genetic match, especially when you're trying to do something as complex as a bone marrow transplant where you're transplanting an immune system to someone else. So I realized this is a film that could save lives, right? Because if we get the word out, educate people, inspire people to join bone marrow registries or donate umbilical cord blood, then then it brings this topic to a wider audience. And so that's why Athena and I took this 6-year journey to make the film, working with a lot of the patients that she had already prior worked with in the past, and trying to just capture their stories as they searched for a match on the bone marrow registry.
So, how do you know who to choose as a subject for your film? I mean, this is not an easy subject to simply approach people.
Yeah, it's a tricky subject, and I think with the work Athena does, you have focus patients. And
I've been campaigning for their search for maybe a few years prior to, so I had kind of relationships already with their friends, with their families, and with them personally. So I guess making that connection wasn't that difficult, but getting them on film was. But there was 200 hours worth of footage, so there were stories that they didn't end up.
We filmed with a lot of subjects, right? And the way you film with a lot of subjects is that you want to find the most compelling stories, and you want to find a diverse group of stories as well. What are people's backgrounds and why are they not finding matches, and who are their medical teams and how are they approaching this? And so
different diseases, also different ages. We wanted to show a broad, relatable.
Yeah, and I think we filmed with close to probably 10, 12 different subjects, but maybe only about 6 made it into the movie. Obviously, and because I think we find people who we spent 6 years following them, because we wanted to essentially just capture their story over time. Because a lot of times when they're searching, with Chrissy Kobata, who's in our film, by the time we had met her, she had already been searching for 7 years for a match. And she actually still hasn't quite found, I think she has one match they've identified, but it's been now, 9 years, 10 years that she's still been searching. So obviously these kind of documentaries take time, and you want to find the right stories to engage the audience so they feel compelled to want to take action after watching this kind of a movie.
So how do you guys approach some of your subjects? I mean, do you already have the subject in mind and you just do the waiting game until they get a match or go into surgery?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think we're following them as they're going through kind of their daily routines, as well as just sort of like interviewing them and finding out, what is their story. And kind of keeping in contact to sort of see how they're progressing and if they're finding matches. But we kind of capture people in certain moments of their lives, right? So we were very lucky that we found a woman who identified as mixed. She was African American, Native American, and Caucasian, and she was going in to be a bone marrow donor. And so we were lucky that we found her at the right time, and so she was going in to donate to another young girl in America her bone marrow. And so I think it's sort of, we was very fortunate. We got very lucky.
We followed kind of the leads, I think, because one patient kind of would lead us to more once we talked to the medical staff or the recruiters that were working with them at the different hospitals. So we kind of would ask questions and just let them know too, following that trail of like, hey, we need this kind of story in the film. Do you know anybody? So word of mouth kind of aided us in finding people.
Yeah, and that was part of the joy of making this film, was that we just got to meet some great, very inspirational people.
You guys put a lot of mileage into this film, traveling through all the cities. Is it because not only it's a limited registry, it's also because of limited subjects in a limited registry that was willing to talk to you guys?
I don't know. What do you think?
A lot of people are not public with their cases, and they don't even sometimes know there's an option to kind of campaign for themselves, or their family doesn't, so they're not even public. Because I mean, there's like what, 30 to 50,000 people, if we're counting all of North America, right there, or 50,000 worldwide that are searching, but you only see a handful in the media, so they're kind of spread out, and that's why a lot of my advocacy was online based, because they weren't local patients that I met in physical sense, so that's kind of why they were spread out in that way, but also too who wanted to speak to us and who were willing to be that open about a very sensitive topic is hard, especially when it's life-threatening, and especially when you have a child that's sick or dying. A lot of people don't want to share those hard stories.
Yeah, and I think that was part of it. And sometimes their stories shift and things aren't going very well. And then when that happens, a lot of times families will back out, or they'll realize they just want privacy. And as a filmmaker, you have to respect that, because they're giving you access to something that's very personal, something that's very emotional, but also the fact that, they're opening their lives up to people, and so when they decide that maybe it's not the right time, you as a filmmaker have to kind of realize that, we have to just sort of give them the space and respect their privacy. But sometimes a lot of luckily the subjects we filmed with gave us some remarkable access to their lives, and we could film all aspects of what they were going through. Like when Alex Tung goes through a bone marrow transplant, we were able to be there in the room with him, capturing that pivotal, amazing miracle moment in his life. And so we were very lucky in that respect, that we had support from the hospitals, from the patients' families, and it's just building that trust. And I think that trust that Athena had built through running Mixed Marrow, which is her organization, with these patients, helped allow us access, and that they trusted what we were doing. Because a lot of times people are very skeptical of what is your real purpose and intent?
Exploiting it.
Yeah, they want
a big blockbusters.
Yeah, people don't want you to exploit their story. Yeah. Obviously, we have to tell your story, but we want to be able to tell your story respectfully, honestly, and through the proper sort of lens. And then that way, that in turn comes off as a very genuine story for the audience. And that's what we were really striving for, making the film.
Tell me about the animation that you guys used. You used the animation several times throughout as sequences throughout the entire documentary.
Yeah, so for us, at least for me, I'm an animator by trade. I started off in 2000 making animated short films, and I kind of moved more into doing feature-length documentary work. But I realized that animation and documentary go hand in hand. Animation is a great way to bring appeal to a documentary. And for a documentary like Mixed Match, we're exploring some pretty complex medical stuff. And so when we're talking about HLA or genetics and DNA level things, it's great to have a stem cell family to help bring it to a digestible level for people, where they can see that it's fun, it's appealing. We're, talking about some pretty heavy subjects, but at the same time, when we bring the animation in, it helps just kind of engage the viewer a little bit better in terms of when a doctor is speaking about some of these concepts, that they can understand the concepts a bit better because we have animated components in the film. So I would say we have about 20 to 25 minutes of animation in the film. And for us, it was just a nice way to kind of help bridge the gap between some of that live action, the patients, and some of that medical terminology and what might be complex for people.
And you guys made stem cell plush dolls for yourselves to carry around?
You know what? This has been a great promotional tool for us, because it's a heavy film. It's an emotional film, and for us, it brings a little bit of a lightness to a hard topic. And so we kind of take these around North America with us when we're filming at film festivals, and we're screening and doing social media. So we've got when we're in Hawaii, we dress them up in Hawaiian clothes, you know, and so we had a lot of fun with this, and you know, a lot of patients that Athena works with, we sent them stem cell babies so that
it's comforting for some of the kids that are in the hospital to have something that makes light of maybe their situation.
Yeah, so it's been nice that we kind of have little mascots, right, that have followed us around, and people like them because they're cute, you know, but at the same time, I think it's great that we can kind of brand and market a film, because when you're an independent film, it's a lot harder to basically get your film seen in a mass audience kind of a way. So when you kind of can bring something cute and fluffy and light to it, I think people are more engaged to want to actually check it out.
I bet you guys have names for these plush dolls, right? Since you spend so much time with them.
We just call it mom, dad, and baby. I don't know.
Yeah.
But a lot of the patients
have named theirs. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Pepper and Steve the stem cell, and different little kid patients have named theirs.
You should name them.
Yes, we should.
We probably should. Well, it's funny because sometimes they will name them like, what did Tori name? Like it was like they name them about like sort of DNA things, like molecular levels, like gene. I think one of the recruiters named them Gene, like, you know, your genes, right? But
you say Papa, Mama.
I just say Papa, Mama, Baby. But it's kind of cute because, like I said, stem cells are inherent in everyone. They're the building blocks of what makes us who we are. And umbilical cord blood was something I had no idea you could donate when you had a baby as a source of stem cells that someone could use for transplantation. And so we really like the idea that there's a baby stem cell because, you know, for a lot of our patients in the movies who found transplants, stem cells from umbilical cord were what were used to transplant. And so they're kind of like reborn. They're like new babies, I guess. So their blood, their system is actually that of a child, like a baby. And they might be a 40-year-old man, but at the same time, the blood within them started off as a baby right from the start.
Didn't you do that in the documentary? You did that in the documentary, right?
I donated my baby's cord blood.
That's
yes.
right.
My wife and I had the opportunity to deliver a baby at a hospital that collected cord blood for the National Cord Blood Bank in Canada. And so we decided it was very important because our child, my wife is also mixed Japanese, I'm mixed Japanese, our child was going to be mixed Japanese, that we could have the ability to potentially just add more diversity to the registry and help, you know, give life to someone who might need it. And so we made sure it was important when we had a child that we would donate our baby's cord blood.
So do you feel more accomplished not only to make the documentary but to be a part of it?
I like the fact that when I make films, I like that there's a bit of a personal touch to them because I think for me it's more meaningful, but also I think for the audience as well too, they see that the filmmaker is going through the same journey they're going through, learning about this topic, learning about the subjects, following Athena, following her patients, and realizing that like I am very curious when I make a film about why and how and exploring all these topics. And so in the film, I narrate the film, but it's also from a standpoint of just being curious and trying to find answers, and then realizing that through the process, I'm getting involved because I did the cheek swabs, I joined the registry, and then I had the ability to donate my baby's cord blood, you know, which are all things I probably would never have done had I not met Athena and made the film. And so, yeah, I find that as a filmmaker, telling personal stories is important.
What do you suppose was the most difficult thing on this project for you guys?
I don't know, what do you think?
I mean, I think the hardest thing through it, obviously, is when you lose a patient that you kind of connected with. And through my work and through the filming, there were patients that we were in contact with or contact with their families and they passed away. And that's just sadly the reality of what we're talking about. And we did want to, as sensitive as it is, we did want a story like that. Because, you know, we want people to know how serious and how life-threatening these situations are. But I think that what for me was the hardest part. There was someone that didn't end up in the film because he passed away before we had the time to interview him, and that was difficult.
Yeah, I think that was hard because, you know, you get to know patients, you get to know their stories, and then you're rooting for them too. Well, of course, you know, we want there to be a hopeful outcome for everyone that we meet and everyone we connect with, and everyone who's giving us access to their lives, obviously. And so when things turn for the worst or things don't work out, it takes a toll on us as filmmakers. And there were times in the filmmaking process where I had to step back a bit because I wasn't prepared for the fact that we were going to be that caught up in those stories and making those connections. And it was difficult, when you find out that someone passes away, especially around Christmas, is when Andy passed away. And, I just remember sitting there and just kind of like, you got to take a moment and just sort of just go, and it still kind of affects me, when you think about the fact that this guy was my age, and he was a cool guy, he was a DJ, he was a snowboarder, and he was reflective of what I do in my life. And, I think that's challenging, I think, as any filmmaker to deal with life and death situations in that context.
Why do you suppose it's very important to show it here at the Asian Pacific Film Festival?
Well, I think obviously this is our demographic, right? We want to encourage more people of a diverse background to join the registry, not just people who are identifying as mixed, but all Asian groups. And not just that, but, people in general who do not always realize that they might have a diverse background. A lot of people are told they're this or that, but sometimes they don't really know if they are this or that. And so I think what Athena does is she encourages people to join the registry regardless, but also because we're looking at the fact that we want to recruit diverse people and tell the story to diverse people. So, and we find that we have the best support from Asian American or some of these minority kind of film festivals because people they thirst for these stories. They want to see these stories. They want to see themselves represented in film and learn about things that they didn't know affected them. And so for us, I think some of our best audience responses come from Asian American festivals.
Go ahead.
For me, breaking down kind of the stigma behind Marrow donation was really important, especially in the Asian community, because we do see a high turnover rate of specifically Asian donors that change their mind or back out because of maybe family pressure, religious or cultural stigmas. So we really wanted, I really feel strongly about presenting this to Asian communities, also African American communities that maybe aren't so comfortable with like these Western ideals of medicine and transplantation, to try to let them see these personal, stories that would, I think, would shift their mind, and where it's not so much about, the negative and the skeptical side, but these real, stories.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, and I think that's really important too, is breaking down some of those misconceptions about what this is about and just educating people. When they watch the film, they come out going, oh, that doesn't look so bad, right? And they're like, oh, I could do that, So that's what we're really hoping for, is that just the audience goes in kind of blind and comes out feeling like they actually understand that there's human faces to this need, that joining a Marrow registry is really easy, and if you get called to donate, that you're doing it to save a life, right? There's a huge, opportunity there that not a lot of people get to be lifesavers in their lives, right? That if you get that call, we really hope. The stat is that 50% of people back out once they're asked to donate to someone if they've been identified as a donor. And that, to me, is really a terrible odds if you're the only match for someone. And so I think
Asians 70% turnover rate.
Oh wow, that's awfully high.
Because it's a very strong, I think, it's a community that I think relies heavily on what your family thinks, and so a lot of the time, maybe because they're immigrant families, they don't understand what this is that you're doing, and putting yourself at risk for someone you don't even know is a kind of foreign idea. So
I think for us it's educating, which is the most important part.
Especially the fact that Asians practically make up half the planet too.
Pretty much.
Right?
And the U.S. is very important to not only save lives locally in our own country, but there are patients that do come from abroad that have to find their matches here because their country is not set up or doesn't promote or is willing. Like Japan isn't very vocal about their registry. They don't campaign, because disease is a very taboo subject in a lot of Asian cultures. So.
Yeah, in China, I don't know. They think their registry is quite unestablished, really.
Philippines doesn't have one still, I believe.
Yeah. So a lot of Chinese bone cancer or bone marrow or basically blood cancer patients have to go to Taiwan to use their registry to find a match. Mm-hmm. So you're finding that like even India just got a registry a few years back, and that's like they hadn't had a registry for years. But you're talking about a country of 1 billion people.
Yeah.
Not having a registry, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. But you can understand that there are, obviously we're dealing with something that it's a big Western advancement in medicine, and sometimes countries just don't have the infrastructure to set up their own registries, and that's no fault of the country. It's just that these countries may not have the right sort of infrastructure to be able to set that up, because it's costly, it's expensive, and so this is why we rely heavily in America and Canada to recruit more diverse donors.
Terrific. And let me wrap this up with you folks here. If people are more interested in the film, or people want to participate, where can they go?
Sure. Well, we have a website called www.mixmatchproject.com, and there they can watch supplemental material, bonus footage of the 200 hours of film that we filmed with. So if they want to learn more, they can come there and visit and watch other patients' stories, as well as they can learn how they can join the registries, and there's a lot of information there. If they want to follow us on social media, we're on Twitter and Instagram at Mixed Match Movie, and on Facebook we're just Mixed Match. So please find us, please follow us, and we really want people to kind of be able to understand that when we have screenings, that they can share that with their friends, and so that's the best way to find out about our screenings, is to basically follow us on Instagram. And maybe Mixed Marrow is an important thing to plug, because they're basically the group that got everything started.
You want to just mention that real fast?
Sure. So at mixedmarrow.org is where you could kind of learn more statistics on why it's harder for minorities to find matches, and you'll see the stats there, and then also more in-depth kind of ways of understanding what a donation entails. So you can visit our site and find that, and follow us on social media and see where you can catch the film.
All right.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And be sure to keep your browsers tuned to LRNonline.com for the latest news, bochinche, and analysis.